everything is interesting. There's not a period that couldn't be done in Epic, I would have said.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. It's, I mean, anything from ancients up to modern.
Yeah, we could do anything. It's partly down to tooling costs. If you do something, if you're mad enough to do Waterloo like we were, we had to do 11 moulds, and that costs an awful lot of money because everyone's got blooming different helmet, haven't they, to a Busby, to a basket. Drives you mad, and because you're still paying the same money for making a mould to make a land there as you are for Imperial Guard, for instance. But then there's easier ones. You're right. That's Saxons and Normans will probably at best be 2 sprues, and even then I don't think there'd be much difference between the 2 of them. But all of it's interesting, and we just, as you know, we just put out the 1776 one, and that's still selling through at the moment. That's nice. People say, are you going to do 7 Years' War and things like that? I don't know. A lot of people are already taking the tricorn ones we're doing and doing different periods with it. Those who can get over the various facings being the wrong size and things like that in epic scale. It's a nightmare. It is a nightmare. It really is. But you see, in the big tent outside, we've got a Culloden game in epic. We're using the Montrose's Highlanders that we bought out 2 years ago as the Highland forces. And we just added some British Grenadiers to the British units, the regular units, to make them look more like the 1745 rather than 76. So plenty more epic to come out, but can't tell you yet what it will be.
Do you have other historical periods in mind? So, I mean, for example, Hail Caesar's great, for Punic Wars or anything with Romans or Greeks or Carthage or anything. Have you thought about possibly a new rule set for covering either Dark Ages, Crusades, Reconquista, Agincourt, that sort of period, and producing a game for that?
We tend to play Hail Caesar for those periods, right up until the Wars of the Roses. And in fact, we've played Hail Caesar games in Japan in the 16th century. So I don't think we feel a need to do something separate. Certainly played plenty of Dark Age games. And as I say, medieval. And in the latest version of Hail Caesar, I did extend the rule system out to include a little bit more in the way of firearms and some specifics. But it's post 13th century, and you tend to get a little bit of a.
I was thinking more sort of rather than the mass battle thing, because a lot of the scraps back then were much more large skirmishes than anything else.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you'd ever think of almost more of a bolt action version of the battle, sort of in and around these sort of Dark Age periods, Crusade periods, where there's more about like raiding and all this sort of stuff and those sorts of things.
Didn't we do a skirmish action?
We did. I don't know what it's called. What's it called?
Shield War?
Hmm?
That's Beastie's game.
British Beast.
Do you have SPQR?
SPQR, yeah. So SPQR, that covered a lot of that.
Yeah.
War bandy stuff.
I mean, I did actually jump in, and I do have that. I've not actually tried it outside of the Roman times, I'll admit, but yeah.
So I think that one would convert quite nicely to the war bandy stuff you're talking
kind
about.
of would. When we did SPQR, you did ask me if I wanted to cover that kind of skirmish action war game. I didn't have time, so we did SPQR, which landed as a finished thing. But later on, I did the Warlords of Erewhon game, which is basically a fantasy warband game.
Hmm.
But a lot of the fantasy warbands are Vikings or whatever. So that game is actually structured, actually described as a warband-based game using the bolt action activation mechanic.
Yeah.
And the Beyond the Gates of Antari's core system, D10.
Yeah.
So that's the closest we've done to that. I don't think there's any real appetite to do that kind of game.
And the other sort of time periods I was wondering about is post World War II. I know there's a little bit for like Korea and stuff, but if you thought about expanding on that more with
Yeah,
expansions, ammunition?
Very much so. Yeah, the Korean supplement did pretty well actually,
Yeah.
punched above its weight.
I'm thinking of other periods after that, because obviously there was the whole Middle East went topsy-turvy, through most of the 20th century. You've got the Falklands, Vietnam, and various other sort of more modern conflicts, and I was wondering how modern you're prepared to go or would think about going.
I think there's a fan-based one for bolt action, isn't it, for that period? Set of rules.
Sure, there are many
Yeah,
out there.
I know, but there's somebody
Sure, many out there. Right, what's the answer to that? The answer is it's either a man or a plan, or a woman and a plan. We either have to find somebody who's really can't wait to write what me and Rick used to call modern wargaming, Centurion tanks.
1975.
That's modern. Which of course isn't modern at all now, but we call it modern. So we need a good nutter to write it all for us, and that would be great, and then we can bring it out. Or B, we put a team onto it and slowly do it and do, as you say, Arab, Israeli, Iraq, Iran, Falklands, maybe whatever, and hypothetical Soviet Union, Warsaw Pact. I think it'd be great. We just can't all do it at once.
Yeah.
I think it'd work brilliantly. I'd love to play bolt action modern, and it will come. It's just we're just busy getting out Conflict 47 at the moment, as you know.
Yeah.
As of today, but yeah, I think it'd be great and really interesting armies.
Yeah.
So I myself do 1967 Indo-Pakistan War. I don't know why. Because it's cool, because you've got Centurion tanks, which are awesome, blowing up American tanks, which are useless. It's good.
That's really good. Yeah.
Sabres.
The
We're going to save aircraft.
bolt action Pacific. There's any plans for some British forces, not the Chindits.
Apart from the Chindits, well, we're going to do some King's African Rifles, if we include those in Commonwealth, and I think we can. And obviously there'll be Australians as well, Owen guns and things like that. So Indian troops, and as I say, we had a bit of a briefing on the Gurkhas yesterday, exactly what's going to go into the Gurkha box set. Scary blighters that they are. I think it's going to be. We took out the Commonwealth from the British book to dig up the Commonwealth models and the figure range, because I think it's exciting. So yeah, there'll be lots more Commonwealth stuff.
Will they be plastic?
All in plastic, yeah. Yes, we're just trying to find out the height of a Gurkha.
Big chap.
Can you do the concert party from Ireland?
That would be good, actually.
Sergeant
Sergeant Major, shut up, get him in there. So all being worked on. Gurkhas should be great. What else, folks?
What's the next 6 to 12 months of Conflict 47 look like? Just conversion of resin to plastic, or the other?
There's a lot of Sirecar stuff with the resin, and we're working on the next 4 box sets of plastics. We'll be working on those next. We're going to have some nice clipped together models, which will be used for promotional purposes. They'll be quite nice, just 2 or 3 part models. We've got a lot of tanks planned over the next year or 2 in resin, including a lot of what the Germans would call them the Wunderwaffe, the wonder weapons, the Mauses and all the E100s and the madness of all that. And then tortoise for the British tanks, and whatever the Yanks had, I don't know, something beastly. Super Pershings, I think they were. So an awful lot to come out for Conflict. And I don't know if you've been to the studio yet, but the stuff, the models are just fantastic. Looking at the Japanese models in particular, they've really tickled my fancy, and I'm going to have to get some more of those. So lots to come out.
Yeah. I've got one for adding on units like is on what the earlier expanding the Pacific. For the US, there's no real more commando-y stuff like they did. Like the early days CIA or SS style units. Is that something to think of? Like the CFFS, whatever it is, proper name.
I don't know much about that, to be honest. You're right.
Yeah.
It's secret. I don't know about that.
They're like a joint US-Canadian task group. They used the Johnson machine gun,
Oh, right, yeah.
which the only other group that did that was the US Marines. And it's just Just no minis with Johnson light machine guns.
That would be one of those rare units that I think would be quite popular if we looked into it.
I don't know if you
Yeah,
mentioned
it's essentially the LED CIA. effectively.
As always, I always learn something new. I think you'd sell a few of those. I think it'd be quite fun.
Yeah, because the US Ranger from it is very like the main branches, not really much like special forces. It's just like your Rangers and Marines.
We do Merrill's Marauders.
Yeah, it's like that
That's
kind
something.
of thing. Yeah, but Western front, I guess, rather than.
Okay, no, I filed away. But what did you say they were called?
I'm trying to get the proper
No, he's
name.
interneting, always making it
Yeah,
up.
no, I'm trying to, I can't remember the proper name. It said CFFF or something like that.
All right.
Following on from sort of Merrill's Marauders, what's your plans for like China as a list?
Well, plans at the moment, to my knowledge, because I'm not the head of the studio, are nil. However, anybody who's read anything about World War II will know World War II did not start in 1939 if you were Chinese, that's for sure.
1937, yeah.
And you know, there are battles bigger than we could ever imagine being fought, I would have thought, and so it's a whole theatre that needs thinking about and needs doing well.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, you've got Merrill Marauders, but then there's lots of other American troops within that sort of Mars group and stuff like that.
There's masses to do.
Yeah,
And just
yeah.
again, it's finding the person with a real passion for it.
I've got a list in my bag if you want. I'm serious, I
But we got first of all we've got to get the Russians out, and then the French
Oh,
out, and
yeah, yeah.
etc. etc.
There's definitely a bigger market in Russia than there is in China.
So I'd like to do the Chinese theatre and do it well.
There's some interesting figures.
It was the SSF commandos. That's what the name was.
While ball action does tend to work well at the smaller games, might we ever see more of this small scale skirmish game, much of the vein of like the 300 hours, where it's individual missions?
Rick, what do you think about that?
Do you mean a smaller scale?
Not as in scale, maybe just in a much smaller game.
Oh, you think bolt action is quite large?
I tend to find it works quite well small, but I mean like super small, like we're dealing with one squad.
Yeah, we did. I think we did have a plan at one point to make a game that was based around single squads, which we called playing with single men.
He said it, not me. Yes, it's a.
Unless you're onto that one.
Yeah. Alessio's got it in his brain box to do a skirmishing type game, and I think it could be really great fun. Or it could be a whole series of articles instead. That might be just as good.
Yeah, the trouble with a game like that, when you're talking to a company that makes its living by selling toy soldiers, is you don't sell many toy soldiers. But as you say, so it works well as something supplementary. Rather than
Some well-crafted articles.
As Mark was saying, there was you used to have the firefights supplementary rules, which was a squad base, and it took you through D-Day for Saving Private Ryan. That's the one. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that you did actually have some rules, but that's version 2 of bolt action.
Oh, okay.
So I would imagine it'd be quite easy to update those to version 3, and then you could do squad based.
I think squad based are terribly exciting. It just isn't a great box set.
It could be a really good expansion where, say if you were to create campaigns, books like you do, but where you could also have rules, so 2 out of the games or 3 out of the games, depending on how it's working, could actually then be at squad where guys go on an individual, because you're using your commandos, say, and they're trying to, sabotage something before the next battle a little bit, and depending on how well they do at that, could then affect what, say, the Axis might have against it.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think back of our minds, we had that kind of heroic action, Hollywood style, where eagles dare.
Yeah.
That kind of conflict. But as I say, I don't think I think we played a few. In fact, John Lamshead came up with the game, didn't he? Which I can't really called it, but it's eventually he took it to Pen and Sword, and they published it as a 1-hour war game skirmish.
Yeah.
Which has been quite popular. But yeah, we can do some of that. Let's get Alessio onto it. Is he busy?
We shall do it.
is there any chance we'll ever see a Blitzkrieg intro box set with French versus Germans?
Well, I don't see why we shouldn't. We've done the Africa Corps and 8th Army, and we've done the Japanese and Marines. So a good matchup would be Frenchies and Germans, wouldn't it? I'd say it's on the cards. Yeah, I think we would do it. Like try and vary the introductory sets and try and put something in there that's interesting, which we haven't put in before. I think we put in an Adobe building for the Desert War we've just done. So we get a bit of hardcover in there. It looks very good, and relaunch it like that. So yeah, I think the French army is interesting because obviously we've got our top 40 things that we've got, and the French army is almost always in there at number 36, always consistently in there. Top ones, of course, top 3 are Germans, Germans, and Germans.
I think it's a shame. I think that early war theatre is really well suited to bolt action. It works really well because the tanks are not overpowered, and the kit is quite nice. It works well with a mixed arms kind of game. Whereas later on, almost all of you will have tiger tanks that come into the tank. King Tigers and things, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's stopping. The game is starting to break down at that point because the kit is just way too powerful. But you sell lots of it, don't you, John?
We do.
We do. So we can't afford to sell it. No one wants to buy the Sharpies, curse it. But I do like that as a period. It's just a shame that the reality is that the French didn't fight a particularly good war, so it's hard to get in there and fight.
Vichy French set, maybe?
Yeah.
Well, there's only so
The
many.
American.
There's only so many white flags you can sculpt on a miniature.
Anything else?
I wondered what your kind of passion project would be. So if you were able to release a model range or a game without having to consider saleability or anyone else's interest, what would you love to?
That's a very good question.
But also I would like to know about Rick's cats as well. Like how many
The passion project's an easy one for me because I've just done it. And it was something that I considered to be so uncommercial that I didn't even ask John if he would do it on the sly. So I just went straight to it. Well, straight. It's a spaceship war game. I don't know if people know, but many years in the deep distant past, when I first joined Games Workshop, I actually joined with a project. And the project was a spaceship war game called Rogue Trader. And I had a set of rules and I had a whole range of miniatures which I designed for it. And the idea was that I didn't particularly want to do the job I used to add, which was putting toy soldiers in boxes. So eventually I said, well, okay, I'll come and put toy soldiers in boxes at Citadel Miniatures in Newark if you produce this game, Rogue Trader spaceships. So it was agreed. And then I got busy doing other things for the next 20 or 30 years. So that game never came out. Some of the spaceships I've designed actually were incorporated into the Citadel range at the time. It was a long time ago. And then later on we got a chance to do a spaceship war game whilst I was at Games Workshop. It was called Battlefield Gothic. But by then I was kind of running the studio, so I was a bit busy. And we had up-and-coming games designers who had not had a chance to design games of their own. So I briefed it and then I pushed it on to the design team, and Andy Chambers ended up designing that. And that was very successful. But yet again, I didn't get a chance. In fact, some of the little bits of background that I'd already done all those years ago did get incorporated into Battlefield Gothic. It sneaked out. But I missed the chance. And then when I left Games Workshop, I was too knackered to do anything for a while, so I did various other bits and pieces. John had been busy doing things like
Warlord.
Yeah, Warlord. He wasn't interested in the spaceship game. So it just festered. And then it was about a year, 2 years ago, I had this peculiar kind of condition where I went deaf, which is very annoying, and I couldn't sleep at night. But I'm deaf, so I can't listen to music or watch it. So to keep myself busy, I started to mess around with the old spaceships that I had. and I came up with this game. It's called Space, because I like to say it like what it is. It's called Space Battles. That's what it's, Space Battles. And I thought, right, as a challenge, I'm going to design a war game that has no dice. No dice. It uses packs of playing cards. And I've always quite fancied doing a game that uses the Baccarat card mechanism. How many of you play Baccarat? All of you. No. Baccarat is it's kind of a strange gambling card game, but the notion is that you kind of add the values of the cards together. So a hand of, let's say, a 7 and a 6 of clubs, you add them together, that's 13. You discard the 1, so that scores 3. So
Sounds simple.
it's very simple. Basically, any number over 10, you ignore the first digit.
Oh, why put them in the card though?
Because the combinations are gambled against, so you're gambling against the chances of you getting another card of the same value but plus the 10. Obviously.
Could you dice?
The complete rules for Baccarat are explained in great detail online and can be found in Casino Royale by Ian Fleming. How many of you read that? There's a few, there's 1 or 2.
They should have known that.
Yeah. Where was I? Yeah, okay, so I invented this game, and it uses cards, and it uses a Baccarat system for establishing values. So it's not using cards just to give a value, it's using cards to using combinations. So sometimes having extra cards to play can boost a number as well as to exceed a number, to give you a higher number value. So it's quite, so it sounds complicated, it's really very simple to do. And at the same time I said I don't want to use measuring it. So it's all based on a mat which is divided into a grid. And that was just as an intellectual challenge. Commercial potential for this game? Not a great deal. As you say, passion project. But I was talking to a mate of mine about it. He publishes games and various autobiographies via Amazon, just self-publishing. And we did it like that. There's no risk, there's no stock. I got some photographs together, I've made a few more models to go with it, I've got a bit of background nonsense like what to do. And you can buy it from Amazon. And it's been reasonably well received, and people enjoy it for what it is, but it's never going to be a commercial success in the way that it is. So there you go, very long answer. But as for the cats.
So Space Battles, you heard it first here.